But what she did with this new awareness, and how it transformed not only her own life, but those around her, is what comes next. After that experience, nothing felt the same anymore. The things that once seemed urgent, bills, schedules, appearances, became small compared to the vastness of what she had felt. The real miracle, she realized, wasn't coming back to life, it was coming back changed. She began noticing signs in everything. Coincidences that felt like messages, encounters that shifted her path. It was as if the universe spoke in a silent language, and she had finally learned to listen. Every person, every pain, every joy, all carried a hidden purpose, an invitation to love more deeply. Her gaze changed. People around her could feel something, a calmness, a soft light, as if heaven itself followed her. She didn't preach, didn't try to convince anyone. She simply lived in a way that inspired others. That was her greatest testimony. Love in quiet action. On nights when fear tried to return, she closed her eyes and remembered the presence that once looked at her with tenderness. Faith was no longer belief, it was memory. Because those who have seen love up close can no longer doubt. She understood that faith is remembering what fear tries to erase. And so she decided, from that day on, every gesture would be a seed of heaven, every word a ray of light. Because the heaven she saw wasn't a destination, it was a way of being. But what happened when she shared this truth, and how it touched people who didn't even believe in miracles, is what you'll see next. Over time, she realized she hadn't come back just to tell a story, but to live a mission. The experience wasn't a miraculous ending. It was a divine calling to remind people of what the world had forgotten, that love is real, and heaven begins within us. She started visiting hospitals, speaking with grieving families, comforting strangers with a serenity that came from somewhere beyond. She didn't need to prove anything. Her presence was enough. When she spoke about what she had lived, she used no fear, no guilt, only love. And that love reached even the most skeptical hearts. Every word seemed to carry the energy of that gaze from Jesus. People said they felt peace just listening to her. Some cried without knowing why. Others said that, for the first time, they believed something exists beyond death. And she smiled because she knew the real miracle wasn't her return. It was their remembrance. Her life became a living testimony. There was no stage, no audience, only purpose. And that purpose was simple: to spread heaven wherever she went. She understood that love creates realities, and that living is the most beautiful way to say thank you for having returned. Once, someone asked her, "Are you still afraid of death?" She replied softly, "No, because I've seen love, and love never dies." But the message she leaves, the lesson that can change anyone who hears it, is what you're about to feel in the final chapter. Today, she understands that death wasn't the end. It was the beginning of awakening. That heaven isn't above the clouds. It happens when love guides our steps. And that the real miracle isn't seeing the light, but becoming part of it. Every gesture, every look, every act of forgiveness is a piece of heaven spreading across the earth. She doesn't seek fame or recognition. What she wants is simple: for people to remember. To remember that they're not alone, that life has purpose, and that nothing done with love is ever lost. Because love is the only thing that travels through worlds, time, and bodies, and never fades. And if you're hearing this story now, maybe it's not by chance. Maybe this message found you because something inside you wants to awaken too. A piece of heaven waiting to live here, now through you. So take a deep breath. Forgive what weighs you down. Hold on to what matters, and remember, to live is to spread heaven wherever you go. The same heaven she saw, the same love that brought you here. And now I ask you, do you believe that love is stronger than death? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if this story touched you, share it. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear exactly this today. The doctors still remember that day as something unexplainable. 11 minutes with no vital signs. Long enough for irreversible brain damage. Yet she woke up, lucid, conscious, and peaceful. No scans showed any harm. Science called it a rare event. She called it grace. When they asked what she remembered, she calmly replied, "I don't remember. I lived." That sentence became an enigma for everyone around her. Some tried to find neurological explanations. Others simply stayed silent before the impossible. But what no one could explain was the light in her eyes, a gaze that carried peace, as if she had returned from a place where fear doesn't exist. And in a way, that was true. She never wanted to confront science, only to show that miracles and logic can coexist, that maybe what we call life after death is simply a new kind of consciousness, one that begins when everything else fades. After her return, she didn't go back to a religion. She returned to faith, a living, simple faith born from the heart. She came to understand that God isn't in temples, but in the space between one act and another, in the love we give without expecting anything back. She said Jesus didn't ask her to follow dogma, but to love with awareness. That heaven begins when we stop judging and start seeing the divine in everyone. That perspective transformed the spirituality of those who heard her. In lectures and gatherings, she spoke simply, but her words carried the weight of someone who had seen the unseen. She didn't preach fear. She shared hope, and hope is contagious. With each story, a new life was touched. People who had lost faith began to feel something again, a gentle reminder that light still exists. And that's what she wanted most, to awaken memories of heaven in people's hearts. But it was in an unexpected moment that she received the strongest sign of all, one that proved love truly never dies. Months later, while praying alone, something unexplainable happened. A soft light filled the room, the same presence she had felt there. No sound, no words, just a certainty. Love continues. That night, she dreamed of an endless garden where flowers shone like stars. Among them stood a figure smiling, the same tender gaze that welcomed her on the other side. It was as if Jesus whispered, "I never left. I just changed places." When she woke, she cried, not from sadness, but from gratitude. She realized that heaven isn't a place we go to. It's a frequency we touch every time we choose to love. Since then, every time she helps someone, she feels that same light around her. And that's how she knows. Every act of love is a continuation of that eternal encounter. And from that realization came the movement that would inspire thousands around the world. Today, her story has crossed borders. Thousands of people draw inspiration from her words, in books, talks, and videos. What began as a personal experience became a movement of collective awakening. She never wanted followers. She wanted remembrance. Remembrance of who we truly are, before fear, before hurry. Her legacy is simple and eternal, to show that heaven isn't a place, it's a presence living within us. Each life touched is a new sparklet, and perhaps that's the true purpose of it all, that everyone who hears her story remembers they are also light. And so, quietly, heaven spreads, not through the clouds, but through the hearts that choose to love, even after pain. What she lived through in those 11 minutes changed the world, because when one soul awakens, the entire universe shines with it. In the end, she realized that life isn't a straight line between birth and death. It's a circle, a constant flow between the visible and the invisible, the human and the divine. For 11 minutes, she crossed that veil and returned with something no language could capture, the certainty that love is the essence of everything. What Jesus showed her wasn't heaven as a place, but as a state of being, a realm where there is no fear, no comparison, no pain, only presence. And that presence, she understood, isn't up there. It's here now, in every breath, every act of kindness, every gaze that chooses to see with tenderness. She survived to remind the world of something we've forgotten amid the noise. That heaven isn't found when we die, but when we truly love. And maybe, the miracle isn't coming back from death, but learning to live in a way that makes heaven want to stay. Final message to the viewer. If this story touched your heart, share it. Not so that more people believe in her story, but so that more people believe in love. Because in the end, and beyond it, that's all that remains. I didn't come back the same. I learned that to live is to spread heaven wherever we go. Do you believe there's life after death? Most people don't, until the impossible happens. She was clinically dead for 11 minutes, long enough for medicine to declare the end. But what happened during those 11 minutes will challenge everything you think you know about heaven, faith, and purpose. She saw her own body being resuscitated while standing in a place where time didn't exist, a realm made of light where love had form, and Jesus was there. What he revealed to her in that moment completely changed how we understand life, death, and rebirth. This isn't a religious tale. It's a real spiritual experience, witnessed by doctors who still can't explain it. And the most powerful part? She came back with a message, a revelation that could transform your view of life itself. If you've ever wondered what really happens after the heart stops, stay until the end, because this story will touch your soul. Like, subscribe, and share, so more people can discover that heaven begins within us. She remembers the sound of machines, the rushed voices, the panic in the air, and then silence. A silence that didn't come from the outside, but from within. Her body felt weightless. Time froze, and fear, that primal fear of dying, simply vanished. All that remained was a peace so deep it seemed to embrace every part of her soul. Suddenly, she was no longer in a hospital. She was in a place unlike anything on earth. No floor, no ceiling, no time. But there was presence. Something alive, luminous, watching her with tenderness. It wasn't a voice she could hear with her ears, but one she felt inside her heart. While doctors fought to bring her back, she walked through a space made of light. Every color seemed to sing. Every shimmer seemed to remember her. And somehow, everything there knew her. She realized that nothing was ever lost. Every bit of love she had given, and even the love she withheld, was alive and surrounding her. Then something approached. A presence so intense that even the air seemed to bow. When she looked, she recognized him. It was Jesus, but not the Jesus from paintings, a living energy, pure love in the form of light. He didn't speak. He simply looked at her. And in that gaze, she understood everything. Before she could ask anything, it all began to dissolve. The light faded. The sounds returned. The weight of her body came back. 11 minutes had passed. 11 minutes between two worlds. And what she saw there, no one could ever convince her it was just a dream. What Jesus revealed to her in that encounter, and how it completely changed her vision of life, is what you're about to discover. His presence didn't arrive through words, but through a vibration that went beyond sound. It was as if love itself had taken form, living, conscious, infinite. When Jesus approached, time dissolved, and all that remained was the now. A now without pain, without guilt, without weight, only truth. He didn't judge her. He didn't ask anything. He simply surrounded her in a light that seemed to tell the entire story of her soul. Every choice, every regret, every act of love. She saw her life like a film made of feelings, not images. And she realized that heaven isn't a distant place. It's a state of awareness. In that space of pure clarity, Jesus revealed that love isn't just an emotion. It's a creative force. Everything love imagines, he said without words, becomes possible. And in that moment, she finally understood what love is stronger than death truly means. Because love doesn't end when the body stops. Love keeps creating. She wanted to stay, to remain in that place where everything was harmony and light. But Jesus looked at her with silent tenderness and showed her something, the image of her family, crying in the hospital, calling her name. Then she understood. There was still purpose. There was still something to live for. With a soft touch, like a breath of light, he said, not with words, but with presence, spread heaven wherever you go. And at that moment, the light began to fade. Her return would be the start of a new mission, and the end of all doubt about what exists beyond death. But what happened when she woke up, and how her return changed everything, is what comes next. The first sound she heard upon returning was crying. Then came the hurried voices, the beeping of machines, the cold touch of instruments. Her body hurt, but her soul was calm. She took a deep breath, unsure whether to cry or smile, because something inside her had changed forever. The doctors called it a medical miracle. 11 minutes without a heartbeat. Yet she was there, conscious, clear, alive. But deep down she knew. It wasn't just a physical miracle. It was a spiritual calling. Something within her had awakened. And from that day on, Time itself would never be the same. In the first few days, memories from the other side came in flashes: the light, the gaze of Jesus, the words that were never spoken but engraved on her heart. It was impossible to forget. The world looked the same, yet she saw it through new eyes. The simplest things, the wind, a hug, now carried a sacred glow. She realized that living wasn't just surviving. Living was remembering who we truly are, even when the world tries to make us forget. Every breath, every sunrise became a chance to spread the heaven she had seen. A heaven not above, but within. People asked what she had seen, what she had felt. She smiled, unsure how to explain the unexplainable. All she could say was, "I thought I had died, but I discovered what it really means to live."